It was a cold Tuesday night, late October 1957. The last wail of the sirens finally died down on Lenox Avenue, painting the storefronts of Harlem in a stark, pulsing blue-red glow. 40 uniformed officers, a tactical squad usually reserved for riots, stood in rigid formation, their breath misting in the crisp air. At their head, Captain Dennis O'Malley, a man whose ambition was as sharp as the crease in his uniform, stared down the imposing facade of the Saratoga, Bumpy Johnson's main gambling club. 40 armed men, ready to kick in the door, to rip apart the heart of an empire. But not a single one stepped inside. The official reports, carefully scrubbed and filed away, would later label it a tactical withdrawal, a misunderstanding with the department. But the streets, those unforgiving arteries of asphalt and concrete, they knew better. The question that hung heavy in the smoke-filled backrooms and hushed barbershops wasn't what happened, but how. How did one man, without firing a single shot, make 40 of New York's finest stand down? They say, and the legend still echoes, Bumpy didn't just own Harlem, he owned the air over it. What hidden card, what secret leverage did Bumpy Johnson hold that night? A card so potent it turned an inevitable raid into a public retreat, cementing his legend as the untouchable king of Harlem. To truly grasp the seismic shift that occurred on that cold Tuesday, you first need to understand the man at its epicenter and the powder keg he called home. Harlem in the late 1950s was not merely a neighborhood. It was a universe, vibrant and pulsating with culture, yet simmering beneath a thin veneer of peace. It was a crucible of racial tension and economic disparity, a place where opportunity was often forged in the shadows. The numbers racket, illegal gambling, the flow of illicit goods, these weren't just crimes. They were the lifeblood of an intricate underworld economy, and Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson was its undisputed sovereign. But Bumpy's reign wasn't just about money or turf. It was about control, about respect, about a fragile, unspoken peace maintained by rules far older than any city ordinance. The stakes were immense, not just Bumpy's sprawling empire, but the entire social fabric of Harlem, and indeed, the very authority of the NYPD in a city already struggling with its own demons. Bumpy Johnson was a paradox. A man whose calm demeanor was as legendary as his ruthless efficiency. He wasn't simply a gangster, he was a strategic mind, a chess master who saw 10 moves ahead, operating on a code of honor that, while twisted, earned him a grudging respect even from those tasked with hunting him down. His reputation was his armor, his intellect his most lethal weapon. Across the invisible divide, Captain Dennis O'Malley stood as Bumpy's antithesis. A career cop, ambitious and by the book, O'Malley viewed Bumpy as an affront to order, a cancer on his precinct that needed to be surgically removed. O'Malley's objective was brutally simple: break Bumpy's grip on Harlem, assert NYPD dominance, and climb the ladder of command. He believed a show of overwhelming force, a public humiliation, was the only way to achieve it. He was dangerous because he represented the law, untainted by the street's unspoken rules, or so he thought. Caught in the middle, navigating the treacherous currents of Lenox Avenue, was Officer Thomas Miller. A beat cop, Miller walked these streets every day. He saw the quiet, good Bumpy sometimes did, the stability he paradoxically brought, and understood the delicate balance of power. Miller knew the street, knew Bumpy's men, and harbored a nagging feeling that O'Malley's rigid, by-the-book approach was about to collide with a reality far more complex than any police manual could describe. His weakness? A quiet loyalty to the community he served, a loyalty that put him squarely at odds with his captain's rigid ambition. The threat had been building for weeks, an unseen pressure accumulating beneath the surface. A new police commissioner, fresh into office, had launched a citywide initiative to clean up the city. A thinly veiled directive to crack down on organized crime. O'Malley, ever the opportunist, saw his chance. Intelligence, according to official reports, suggested a major gambling operation was running hot inside the Saratoga that very night. The order came down, clear and uncompromising. Hit Bumpy, hit him hard, make an example. The deployment of 40 men, a tactical squad usually reserved for large-scale disturbances, wasn't just a raid. It was a declaration of war, a direct challenge to Bumpy Johnson's sovereignty. Inside the Saratoga, the usual Friday night revelry had given way to an eerie, almost preternatural calm. Bumpy, nursing a glass of amber liquid, watched the street through a narrow gap in the blinds, his face an unreadable mask. He knew O'Malley's type. A man who saw only in black and white, who couldn't comprehend the myriad shades of grey that truly governed Harlem. What O'Malley didn't know, what no one outside a very tight, trusted circle knew, was the quiet arrangement Bumpy had cultivated over years, a sprawling network of favours and information that reached far beyond the street corners and back alleys. It reached into the highest echelons of city power. Officer Miller, standing on the perimeter, could feel the tension radiating from the ranks, the unspoken questions hanging in the cold night air. Why was Bumpy so calm? Why wasn't there a single runner bolting from the club, a single sign of panic, of a desperate scramble to hide evidence? The clock ticked, each second amplifying the silence. O'Malley, his frustration a palpable aura, prepared to give the order to breach. But then a subtle movement began to ripple through the unseen fabric of the city. A discreet phone call Bumpy had made earlier, hours before the first siren wailed, began to pay dividends. This wasn't a crude threat, nor was it a simple bribe. It was a precise surgical application of leverage. A single damning detail about a high-ranking city official's profound indiscretion. A quiet word passed through a deeply connected lawyer. A piece of information that, if revealed, would not only derail Captain O'Malley's career, but embarrass the entire police department and the mayor's office on a scale that few could imagine. Bumpy wasn't just playing chess, he was playing politics, and he had the Queen in check. Throughout the tense standoff, the only constant, the only sound that truly broke the silence within the Saratoga was the quiet, rhythmic clinking of ice in Bumpy Johnson's glass of amber liquid. A sound that spoke volumes of unshakable calm, of absolute control, an almost defiant serenity in the face of overwhelming force. The clink became the silent soundtrack to the night, the iconic symbol of Bumpy's unwavering power. The tension stretched taut, a wire humming with an unbearable current. Captain O'Malley's jaw was clenched, his gaze fixed on the silent, defiant facade of the Saratoga. His hand hovered over his radio, ready to bark the order that would unleash his 40 men. Every second that passed was a testament to Bumpy Johnson's audacity, an insult to O'Malley's authority. Officer Miller, on the perimeter, felt the collective unease of his fellow officers. This wasn't how a raid was supposed to go. There should have been chaos, a scramble, signs of a cornered animal. Instead, there was just stillness, an unnatural quiet, punctuated only by the distant city hum, and for those inside, the almost mocking, rhythmic clinking of ice in Bumpy Johnson's glass. Then the world shifted, not with a bang, but with a crackle. O'Malley's radio, usually a direct conduit to his precinct, sprang to life with an urgent, hushed command. The voice wasn't familiar. It wasn't his lieutenant, nor even the commissioner. It was a voice from a higher political office, filtered through layers of intermediaries, yet utterly unmistakable in its tone of absolute, non-negotiable authority. The words were clipped, precise, slicing through the strained silence of Lenox Avenue like a razor. The order was clear, devastatingly simple: stand down. O'Malley froze, his hand still hovering, his face a sudden mask of bewilderment. He looked as if he'd been struck, not by a physical blow, but by an invisible, crippling force. His eyes darted from the radio to the Saratoga, then back to his ranks, confusion warring with a dawning, terrible realization. This wasn't a tactical pause, it was a public humiliation, orchestrated from the shadows by the very man he sought to destroy. The order was repeated, firmer this time, laced with an unspoken threat of career annihilation, if not immediately obeyed. With a visible tremor, O'Malley slowly lowered his hand, his shoulders slumping. His jaw remained clenched, but now in defeat, not resolve. His voice, when it came, was barely a whisper, ragged with suppressed fury. "All right, fall back. We're standing down." The officers, caught between disbelief and a sudden shared understanding, exchanged bewildered glances. 40 armed men, poised for battle, now ordered to retreat without a single shot fired, without a single arrest made. It was an unprecedented surrender. Slowly, reluctantly, they began to move, the blue-red glow of their patrol cars receding from the storefronts, leaving Lenox Avenue cloaked once more in the mundane, indifferent shadows of a late October night. The sirens remained silent. The message, however, had been delivered, loud and clear, without the need for bullets or blood. It was a victory for Bumpy Johnson, a testament to his unseen influence, a masterful stroke that avoided a bloody confrontation that would have destabilized the entire city. And inside the Saratoga, as the last red light faded from his window, Bumpy Johnson took a slow, deliberate sip from his glass. The ice clinked one final, resonant time, a quiet celebration of an invisible triumph. In the morning, the story was whispered, then shouted, across every corner of Harlem. From the stoops to the barbershops, from the speakeasies to the churches, the legend of Bumpy Johnson exploded. He wasn't just a powerful gangster, he was untouchable, a man who could make the entire NYPD blink. Within 72 hours, the ripple effects began. Captain O'Malley, his ambition shattered, was quietly reassigned to a desk job in Staten Island. His career effectively ended, a public example of what happened when you underestimated Bumpy Johnson. Rival families, who had watched the unfolding drama with keen interest, understood that Harlem remained Bumpy's turf, secured not just by guns, but by a political leverage they couldn't possibly counter. Any move against him would now invite not just violence, but a political backlash they couldn't afford. The unspoken rules of engagement between the mob and the police in Harlem were subtly but permanently rewritten that night, solidifying Bumpy's untouchable status for years to come. This wasn't just a story about a gangster avoiding arrest. It was a masterclass in strategic power. It teaches us that respect isn't merely given. It's earned, forged not always with a gun, but with the quiet, devastating force of leverage and an unshakable reputation. Bumpy Johnson didn't make empty threats. He made undeniable statements, woven into the very fabric of the city's power structure. It makes you wonder, is true power found in the force you can exert, or in the far more potent force you make others choose not to exert against you? That cold Tuesday night in 1957, with the silent retreat of 40 officers and the solitary clinking of ice, Bumpy Johnson proved it was the latter. If this story of unseen power and strategic genius hooked you, then make sure to hit that like button. What are you waiting for? Subscribe to our channel to uncover more forgotten tales of history's most cunning minds. And tell us in the comments, was Bumpy Johnson a necessary evil, maintaining a fragile order in Harlem, or simply a villain with better tactics? Share this incredible story with someone who needs to hear how true power operates, and prepare yourself, because the next one is even more insane. Don't miss it.